the science is what's really interesting, but you can't have the science without the people. You have to get to, and you have to really keep them in mind, because that's how we get things done. Like all working together, and not just some people, but everyone has to kind of be a part of that.
Welcome to a Bonus Pelecanus episode where we highlight the 2023 recipient of our Carrie Wilson Memorial Scholarship, Valeria Hernandez, a graduate student with Project Dragonfly from Houston, Texas. Valeria is an everyday conservation hero that the world needs more of, so let's go straight to our conversation with her so you can hear all about the work she's doing in her community. Valeria, thank you so much for joining us. Can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and kind of go into what you are working on with your degree with Project Dragonfly?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Valeria, and I live in Houston, Texas right now. Um, I am doing my master's with Project Dragonfly, and I started the program during the pandemic, so 2020, and I I was working at the Austin Zoo at the moment. So um, what inspired me to join the program, I was working with a lot of wildlife, and I felt like I wanted to do more for the conservation of the animals I was working with, and just in general for the environment. So that's why I was looking into different programs, and several people recommended Project Dragonfly. Guess it's pretty well known with zookeepers. So yeah, I really like the traveling aspect of it, and I was thinking that I would mostly focus on wildlife conservation for my research throughout the program, but it actually turned out that I got very passionate about environmental justice. So a lot of the issues that, like for example, like climate change, global warming, how it impacts like marginalized communities, and yeah, I got really passionate about that. So a lot of my research is about that, and just how communities can be taken into consideration for conservation efforts. So that has been a lot of my focus, and I really hope to do that as part of my career. And I've been able to think, thanks to my master's program, I feel like I've made a lot of connections and networking with other organizations in the city that are working to do like initiatives where communities that are usually not maybe considered or maybe left out of planning for like parks or and what I did the past year. So I moved from Austin to Houston, and I started along with three other volunteers, and we started a chapter of Latino Outdoors. So I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a national nonprofit, and what they do is try to inspire and engage communities, Latino communities, more specifically in nature. I wanted to know if there was a Houston chapter, and there wasn't. So, and yeah, we started it. We did some training, and then we started planning some events. So we've been trying to do at least one event per month where we just do like either like a nature walk or like a hike. For Women's Day, we actually did a speaker panel, and followed by a hike at an event. It's called Armand Bayou Nature Center here in Houston, and it was really neat. It's really nice to see people connecting, and just how it really does make an impact. Just being outside, 'cause it's something that I really like, and I just wanted to kind of engage other people and help them make that connection. Sometimes the access to nature is not always very. easy for everyone. So just by providing those free events, it really does help, and it's nice also to make a community with people, especially in such a big city.
My conversations, well, one, I went through Project Dragonfly, the
Hmm.
AIP program, but then since then we've kind of been working with them with the scholarship and some other stuff. And with my conversations with them and what I know of it is that's exactly what they want out of Project Dragonfly students is they want you to come in, learn about certain things that you may have never heard about,
Hmm.
or you have heard about it, but now you've found a passion. And then you take that out into the world and either join groups or start groups as you did
Hmm.
to then bring everyone together. And if every student does that, that's a huge movement with, I mean, I don't even know how many hundreds or a thousand students a year that come into Project Dragonfly. So, nationally, that could be a pretty big thing.
Hmm.
So that's, good on you for being a perfect Project Dragonfly student. um,
Maybe
and
not
especially
perfect,
with,
but
yeah, and especially with what I always learned as at least in the States, called non-traditional environmental constituents, which is a
yeah.
really uh, long term for saying non-white males.
Oh yeah.
you know um, but and it's funny because a lot of people say, like, it's just the outdoors. There's
Hmm.
nothing stopping you from going outdoors. And it's
Hmm.
like, well, actually there is. And if you really start going into like the about it, and like you said, environmental justice things,
Hmm.
so it's really cool to see these groups kind of come together.
Hmm.
um, and so I guess with your degree and with this chapter of Latino Outdoors that you
Hmm.
started, what are where do you want this to go? Because you have a lot of ideas, but what would be your ideal situation for yourself, but also for your chapter in the Houston area?
Hmm. I've thought about that a lot. um, I feel like I would like it to keep growing, because we started out with, so in total, 4 volunteers, and now we have 5. So it's grown a little bit, but just being able to have more, and I know it's hard because it's volunteered, so it's not paid work, but honestly, like, I feel like it's worth it. And I think just being able to grow and get more people involved, that can help us create more events, because right now, we're doing at least one per month, but being if we were be able to do a few more per month, um, I feel like that would help our chapter be able to engage more people and inspire more people to connect to nature. um, just more awareness of it. And Houston is such a big city. I know it'll take a little longer because there's so many people. And I think for me personally, I would like to be able to find, like a job or opportunity that does something similar, where I can organize events, and just be able to really measure if it's really creating, maybe more opportunities for Latinos or other minorities, like you said, like non-traditional conservationists. Because that's what inspired me to begin with, like just being really, um, passionate about being connected to nature. And I guess as a young girl, I would, and it wasn't even something I thought of in the moment. I think until now, I like when they asked me, how my connection to nature began. I think it was just little things like going to the beach with my family, riding my bike outside, and a lot of those things were free as well. So I think creating that access that's more equitable. And I think those things also, like, also my grandparents are from Mexico, so we would go to my grandparents' ranch in Mexico and just spend time outdoors. And I remember having just so much fun with my cousins, and being able to see some of the farm animals. So I think a combination of all those things that were free. Now that I think about it, and that weren't so hard to access for me, which not everyone gets that either. Um, just being able to provide that for more people.
It sounds to me like you already have the job opportunity. You just got to figure out how to get it funded because like
Yeah.
you're already doing what you want to do. You just like it's just for free, which
Right.
unfortunately is very common in this field.
Yes, it is. It's hard. Even when I was a zookeeper, it's not the highest paying job, but I loved it. I loved being with the animals. So just being really passionate about it uh, was enough for me at the time. um, and now I'm like you say, like it is hard to find something that mm, might be a little higher, higher wage, higher salary.
Right.
But
You know, and
yeah.
what I love about the mission of Latino Outdoors is like, yes, it's to get people outside to, you know, lower your stress, connect with nature,
Mhm.
you know, all the benefits of just being outdoors and,
Mhm.
you know, creating that access, and that's awesome. But the for me, the bigger goal of all that is it's not just to like have these people go, great, I can get outside. It's
Mhm.
also to create that ethic among a very large community in the
Mhm.
U.S., especially in Texas and
Yeah.
Houston, that may or may not be thinking in the quote environmental or
Mhm.
conservation sense, or like,
Yeah.
hey, that's nature. Nature's over there. This is where I live. They're
Mhm.
completely separate. And it's like if
Mhm.
you start thinking like, hey, they're all connected, and the way I purchase things, the way I get around, the way I vote, the way I do
Mhm.
everything actually has an effect on that, then that's a that's a pretty admirable goal that
Mhm.
the organization has.
Yeah, it's a very big goal, and um, but like you said, it's not just about being out there. It's like feeling like you belong there as well, and like it's for everyone, and um, just knowing that like I feel like so throughout Project Dragonfly, I I didn't think about this before. Like being a Latina, and like it wasn't until being in Project Dragonfly that I started reading more about how conservation is very much like how you said, like traditional white man, right? And I guess I didn't see it in a big picture, but then it made me like very passionate about it. At the same time that it made me kind of sad, but also like, okay, well, what can I do? And uh, I know there's people out there doing things too, because it's not on the media a lot, right? Like, especially good things, like usually good news is not really put out there. But also, the more I looked, the more I found people and organizations doing things to promote more of that engagement and connection to nature. Um, but yeah, I think that it was something like none of my family is involved in any environment like nature thing, but in a way my family, like they kind of are, because my grandfather, he grew up working the land, and he was able to build up and provide for his family. But so there is that connection to like the land, but it's not in a way where it's like, oh, I want to protect it and I want to be out there because it's work, right? Like it's hard being in the sun and working, and but it also did provide for our family. So it was like a love hate, I think, relationship.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah.
like you said, there's the social aspect to it too. Is like not only just like to get outdoors, but to feel like you belong when you're there.
Hmm.
Because you know, here in Southern California, we have some pretty wealthy areas, and that's where all the open space, nice areas are.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so if you go there, you kind of get a weird look. What are you doing here? You know, and it's like
Yeah.
not everyone's like that, but it does happen. So it's
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, that's a big thing, and I love that goal of yours and Latino Outdoors, and
Hmm.
you know, part of your research and all that too. So
Yeah.
um, just for the sake of time, I want to hear
Mhm.
about Namibia. I want to hear
Yes.
what was the, it's the Earth expedition to Namibia, but what was the like what's the focus? Because like when I went to Peru, it was more of like
Mhm.
avian ecology. But what's the focus and what kind of projects did you undertake while you were there?
So in Namibia, we were at the Cheetah Conservation Fund. So they do a lot of work with communities and, for example, farmers, because of the cheetah population is endangered. So they try to work with farmers, so that they won't just kill any cheetahs that might be around their land, because a lot of them think that they eat their livestock, that the cheetahs eat the livestock, but sometimes it's not even the cheetahs, or sometimes the cheetahs are injured, so they end up eating what's easiest to hunt, right? So yeah, the focus was a lot of like community-based conservation and land use. Um, so another cool thing the Cheetah Conservation Fund does is they do training with dogs. Anatolians, have you seen those? They're big, but they're so cool. They train the dogs to basically protect the livestock, right? And then once they are able to train a group of dogs, they'll provide them for different farmers so that they can use them. And they have a really successful program, and it's really when I was there, I was very just inspired and amazed at all the things they can do. And of course, they have 30 years now of when the organization started. Dr. Laurie, she's from Oregon. So she was she started out. She took a cheetah to Namibia because she wanted to see if, I believe, if it could be in the wild. But that's where she started learning, like, oh, the farmers actually have killed cheetahs. So she started doing a lot of research, and she basically moved out there once Namibia gained its independence, which was 1990. Yeah, so ever then she established the Cheetah Conservation Fund, and they've done so many things. The dogs, the cheetah work, um, they also do. So they have like a model farm that they try to show farmers, like, hey, you guys can do this too. You can do it in a sustainable way, which includes the dogs and like not killing the cheetahs, but also that they can raise like goats, and the goats can provide different kinds of products. And yeah, they provide a very good example of what a sustainable farm can be. Very
Yeah,
admirable.
that's what I was going to ask next. But like you said about inspiring, was how what I guess what kind of things did you learn that you can then take back to your community in Houston
Mhm.
and these
Yeah,
things that you're starting to build? Like, what is it that you learn that you can implement here?
I think that they do a lot of work with communities, and it's I feel like even with my own research, it's I've learned that it's so important to take communities into consideration, right, when doing like conservation work. So not just going into a place and doing something, but taking the people that live there into consideration, because they might be doing something because that's what they believe, or that's what they've known all their lives. Um, so I think just always keeping that in mind, like even when I'm doing something in Houston, like there's so many different communities in Houston that I feel like I can't just go somewhere and even though like if I want to help, I can just go and be like, oh, this is what I want to do, and like it's not gonna work. They're not gonna want me because I'm not even asking what I can do to begin with. So I feel like just going somewhere and asking how I can be of service and how I can help, or maybe what is missing there.
Yeah, and one of the things you said just, just reminded me that like showing up is half the battle. And if you keep
Hmm.
showing up and you
Yeah.
keep proving that you're going to be there,
Hmm.
the community responds. And, over time, sometimes it takes a long time, but
Yeah.
some good work can get done. It's really cool because again, perfect Project Dragonfly student. They always want you to go to these places and not only have a good experience and like see the cool animals. Obviously, that's a perk of it all. But
Hmm.
it's like, okay, how do I learn something from these different programs around the world and then implement them into my own research and studies and life and professional goals? So the fact that you're able to even think about starting doing that is exactly what they want and exactly what should be happening. So one of the things that we like to talk about is like you kind of said that there's like not a lot of good news on the news when it comes to conservation. Is given your background and your the way you were kind of brought up and kind of learning about going outdoors, and like you said, a lot of these things didn't really become clear to you until you started learning about them in either in undergrad and graduate school.
Hmm.
How is it that once you started to realize these things, you know when it comes to hope and thinking about the future, like how does the positivity, like how does that all kind of fit into your mindset about moving forward? Because obviously something clicked and I want to do something about this.
It is hard because even just looking at like conservation itself, like the world is going through a lot of changes, right? Like climate change, global warming, and it's hard just to be hopeful about that because we've seen so much things going on, like wildfires, like right now, like in Hawaii. Um, there's so much things that kind of make you want to stop or like think it's not gonna get better. But I think once you start looking at, okay, what can we do and what are the things that I myself can do? Because as one person, I may think I can't do a lot, but I can, and like even just with, let's say, like with Latino outdoors, like I feel like I'm one person part of this group, but together like we can all do more and like impact more people. But it really can just start with like even Lori, the Cheetah Conservation Fund founder. She It was her that started by herself, and now she has so many people with her. And if you can work together, I feel like you can do so much good. And yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes I'll look back at how I started my Project Dragonfly program, and it's very different than what it is now. Um, my Some of my goals have changed. Definitely focusing more on the social aspect of conservation because I think I started thinking more about the science part, but the social part is very important, especially I think now with social media and so much news going out. Um, Sending a good message instead of a message of like hopelessness, which it doesn't work. It really doesn't. Um, it just discourages people more. But it is
Yeah,
hard.
and I get what you're saying about the toxic positivity because that's something we struggle with where we're not trying to say, hey, don't worry, everything's fine, guys.
Mhm.
Just, all these people we've got to handle, not a problem.
Yeah.
It's really just like, hey, yes, things are bad, but here are the people that are really trying to make a
Hmm.
difference and try to change things.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, where I think a lot of us start with the science because it's more interesting to us and it's like we
Hmm.
want to help animals, we like
Yeah.
learning about ecology, but then you start seeing what the problems are. You're like, oh, this is a social issue more than it is
Hmm.
a ecological issue.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
and I feel like as scientists, a lot of scientists forget about that because, like you said, the science is what's really interesting, but you can't have the science without the people because the people is what you have to you have to get to, and you have to really keep them in mind, because that's how we get things done, like all working together, and not just some people, but everyone has to kind of be a part of that. Thank
Well,
you.
Valeria, thank you so much for joining us, and we were so thankful and happy to be able to award you the Carrie Wilson Memorial Scholarship. I've said this each time now, but Carrie Wilson was an amazing person. She helped me in, I wouldn't say rough times, but when, grad school and having three jobs, like it's
Yeah,
really nice to have someone that really helps you.
yeah,
And I wouldn't have been able to start Pelecanus, and I wouldn't have been able to go back to school without her. So
yeah,
it, the fact that we can pay it forward to someone as doing as awesome work and as cool as you are, that's it's as that's as good as it gets for us. So we really appreciate you applying and doing all the great work you're doing. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you. It really was very helpful, and like you said, being in grad school, and I was in between jobs, and just it can be hard money wise, but it really helped. So thank you again for choosing me and helping me go to Namibia. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and for anybody that's in the Houston area, how do they get involved and learn more about the chapter that you created?
So on Instagram, our user is Latino Outdoors underscore Houston, and we're also on Facebook, and they can find us the same way. There's also the on Instagram. There's also the Latino Outdoors, like the national nonprofit account, and they can find different chapters across the U.S. So there's like in California. Um, there's a few in California because that's where it started. So there's like in L.A., Sacramento, San Francisco, but there's all over. There's like in Washington. They just started a few in, like, I think Florida. So yeah, there's so many chapters. So if anyone
Taking
wants to
over.
join, yeah, if anyone wants to join, and everyone is welcome, of course. Everything's about being inclusive and making a safe space. So anyone's welcome.
Thank you so much to Valeria for taking the time to talk with us and for all of the amazing work she does. Now, the Carrie Wilson Memorial Scholarship will be open for applications for Project Dragonfly students again in the spring of 2024. Check out our pelecanus.org scholarship page for more information. Now, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that takes tax-deductible donations if you'd like to contribute to the Carrie Wilson Memorial Scholarship or to Pelecanus in general. Thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.